Today is a slightly different episode. I'm here with my friend Jo Wood, and we want to talk about something quite personal. We want to talk about education and Jo's journey with homeschooling her daughter. Welcome to the Bookkeepers podcast, sponsored by Xero. So Jo, this has been something that I think that you've had a bit of shame, and it's definitely been a real challenge for you. It's something you've not always wanted to open up about, but then we have conversations in our community about this topic, and it's something that you want to talk about openly.
Yeah, it's been something that I've noticed over the last year, because people have realised that my youngest is at home and not in the education system. More and more people at different events, random events, lots of accountancy-like events, have been asking me more and more about my experience and what it means. And I feel, and even this week in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, I saw a post go out and there were so many comments of, I'm in the same position, tell me more. And it feels like I have a public duty to share my story.
Okay, so do you want to take us back to when you first realised that your daughter was struggling with school? What were those sort of early signs for you?
So the first sign was actually in COVID, and it's the opposite to what you think may have been the case. She was desperate to go to school when the schools were shut. So in COVID, obviously everyone was being homeschooled, and she hated not being at school because we were obviously running a bookkeeping and payroll practice from home, and actually payroll fell under the guise of being like that. What was the term called in COVID where it was like,
I know what you mean. It was like one of those key worker roles, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so I spoke to the school and said to them, we are running payroll. Obviously, there was a lot of furlough. There was so much that we were doing. We were really busy. We grew in COVID as well. So it was massively busy. But she could have been at home. But we just spoke to them and said, is there an opportunity? And they were like, absolutely. You are classed as a key worker. We can take her in. So actually, in COVID, she went into school and she loved it. And it was obviously there was about 5 kids or something. It was very small, but she really enjoyed it. Now, so I think she was year 5 at that time in primary, and then year 6 came about, and it was very piecemeal. Like, they didn't really have the full, it was still masks and all of that stuff. And she didn't get the opportunity to have that like real transition to secondary. They used to have like summer camps at secondary schools in the summer holidays so that you got to know your friends. You'd have tours and like days of going in. She didn't really get that. It literally was in the September when she started in year 7, she started. And she was extremely nervous, but she was a lot more confident then. And I remember the first week in year 7, it was going really well. There wasn't really much that would have stood out, other than the fact when she was coming home, she was exhausted to the point she wasn't talking. She would be falling asleep in her dinner. And I was recognising some signs of when she'd been at nursery, she had been selective mute. And she was saying she was struggling to talk at school. So that kind of, the selective mute was being chosen again as like, but she was obviously exhausted and shattered from all of the experiences, which you expect the first week of school, that they're going to feel overwhelmed and tired. But the second week of school happened, and she came back one day, and she had been moved classes because the class that she was in had been oversubscribed, and someone said to her, well, you're a Wood, you're at the end of the register, so you're going to be moved to another class. And that was the first kind of, oh my goodness, like you have shaken, like she had found some friends in the other class. Everyone had already made that, that first week was really intense. So she was moved to this other class, and that was the first kind of real, really upset her. And then I think a couple of weeks in after that, there was a queue outside a classroom, and she was asked to, she was being queuing, and there was a boy in front of her, and the queue had moved. So she tapped him on the shoulder and said, oh, you can move forward. And he turned around and kicked her 10 times in the shin, and she split all her legs open.
Oh.
And he wasn't told off. And at that point, she just saw such injustice, and she's very much like there's right and wrong. The thought of being told off to her is like fills her with anxiety, and so she's a really good girl, so much so that she will keep everything in all day, hence the selective mute. She doesn't want to say anything wrong. And so then we went into the school and spoke to them about that, and he was told he had to apologize, and it went rapidly downhill from there, where she didn't want to go. We got her in for the whole of year 7. She managed to go. She was very poorly. Also, another point which has just come to me, the August before she went to school, she was hospitalised. She was suffering really badly with her gut, and really to the point she was hospitalised. And it was, I think I shared it in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club back then, a photo of me, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and she had been screaming in pain. I've never seen... I saw my other daughter, she had appendicitis. So both times, it's if you see your child in pain and you're unable to help them, it is horrifying and you feel awful. And because it was her gut, obviously she had toilet issues. And she was actually on things to keep things moving quite a lot. So she needed to go to the loo frequently. And in those first few weeks of school, she was refused to allow to go to the toilet. That you needed to have a toilet pass. We didn't understand all of this. And that was just adding to her anxiety. So I can see where, these issues had started. But when we got to year 8, it was completely different. She completely shut down. And I remember the joy of the summer holidays and feeling like I got my daughter back. And then went back in year 8, and it was like I had a different child. She was refusing to wake up. She was refusing to get dressed. We had kicking, screaming, shouting, panic attacks. And I had to go on to some anti-anxiety medication, because this is something that I've learned, that whatever your child's feeling, and if you're an empath as well, you feel it all the time as well. So we started talking to the school. We ended up getting her on a reduced timetable. She was able to go into this room. I will think of the word in a minute, sorry, where she was able to kind of do some colouring and Lego or do her homework in a peace and quiet. But she ended up going more and more. She had this card that she could go to this place whenever she wanted, and she was ending up there all the time, and she wasn't really going to lessons. So we started doing a reduced timetable, and we were speaking to the school regularly. They were really trying to help reintegrate her back into school. But something... I think we're a few months in. I'm really bad with dates. It feels like trauma, if I'm really honest. I do this when there's a traumatic event. I forget lots of things. And, I know today I need and want to talk about it, but there's going to be massive gaps. But there was a point where we just said, enough's enough. I looked into what homeschooling was, and initially we deregistered her from mainstream school, and we started her on an educational path with an online school, so like an online private school, and she did that. She did that for a while, and that was okay for a while.
So you, I really feel for you. Like I struggle if I can't get my kids to put their shoes on in the morning. I'm like, oh, it's ruined my day.
Yeah,
it must have been incredibly challenging, for you emotionally, and I understand the anxiety that come with that. How did it? At that point, how did you feel trying to support her and her sort of need to do things in her own way, in her own time, alongside what you knew? Because I know you were a really good girl at school, and you've got 2 older children as well. So you sort of had expectations of what school looked like, and you were trying to manage their expectations, because you keep saying they were trying to reintegrate her back into school.
Yeah, I was trying to be good for the head teacher and the the teachers that were helping us. I was going to all these meetings, and there was a plan, and I was like, we will stick to the plan, because I'm a good girl. I'm a grammar school girl. I really loved school. And there was so much kind of shame that was being come up, because I was like, I can't do this, and I'm a problem solver, and I can't solve this problem. And my other kids as well. That's the other thing people don't talk about, is the impact on your other children who have been made to go to school every day. And now you're letting the other one have a day off or a morning off, or you're picking them up early from school because they are like having a panic attack, and it's interrupting every single day. And I used to wait so much for the holidays just to have a break from the stress of it all.
What's the age gap between your children?
So now Daniel's 22, so it's like 4 years. Grace is nearly 19. She's 18 at the moment, and then Rosie's 15. So yeah, like 3.5, 4 years between them all.
So Rosie was in year
7 and 8. Yeah.
So Grace was still at school.
Yeah, and doing her GCSEs.
So she was going into school, and then you had another child who wouldn't go into school.
Yeah.
And that's
so you've got to think how many times we were back, and our school was like 25 minutes away. We were always in the car going to and from the school, because we didn't invest in the bus passes because we didn't know if we didn't know if we could get her on the bus, and actually she didn't want to get on the bus. And so it impacted so many things.
So tell me about the online school. Like, was that light? Did you feel like that was going to get her the same result as being in school?
Yeah, I did, and I thought it was the answer, and it was a big investment. And I'm like, oh my goodness, school's free, and this is not,
Yeah.
But it meant that she was at home, she was safe. But very quickly, the same pattern started to happen again. She would very much, if she was messaging in the classroom, she wouldn't have her camera on, which was fair enough, and they didn't have to. But if she was messaging and if the teacher didn't respond to her, it was like she was being ignored, and she would have like panic attacks that no one was listening to her. And I was like, but it's very busy. You can imagine the chat room with the children all talking. We wasn't getting very far. So we then thought about, and it was very expensive. And then she started refusing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I was just at my wit's end, absolutely at my wit's end, because I had this belief, and I do believe that, education is very important. Literally education is our job.
Yeah.
We are continuously teaching and continuously learning. So there was a lot of guilt and shame. Like, I'm getting this so wrong. And I do pride myself. I think I'm a good mum, but I was feeling like I was massively failing, and didn't really know where to turn. But I did start researching. TikTok's amazing because it shows up everything that you need to see. And I started to follow some like home education influencers, and started to learn about really what the options were. And I think by being in our network and just having confidence, I took the decision to unschool, which I'd never heard of before.
So tell me about that. What does it mean to unschool, and what was the conversation that happened at home when you made that decision?
So we had looked at the option of actually a physical private school as well, but that was just out of our budget. And the thing was, whenever we brought up an opportunity or an option, she was really enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that she didn't want to learn. It wasn't that she didn't want to do things. It was like she was physically unable to. Her mental state wasn't there, and it was so obvious to see her decline. So we decided one day, what if we didn't do anything? What if the fact that we're running businesses from home, that we have, my family WhatsApp is like a boardroom. Everyone's an entrepreneur in my siblings, and I'm the eldest of 5. And my mum Jill works in our business and is a coach and a consultant, and like has so much wisdom. I was like, what if we just allow ourselves to not do anything for a while and just see what happens? And it was fascinating. There were days where she slept all day. There were days where she gamed all day.
So did you just stop school? You stopped school, you stopped online school.
Yeah.
And you said...
We deregistered for everything.
Yeah.
And we just stopped.
And you said to Rosie...
No expectation of anything.
Yeah.
Felt like she needed to heal.
Yeah.
We did look down the diagnosis routes, and she had passed initial assessments for autism and ADHD, and we were looking down that. But we spoke to her openly. Does she want to go? Is that what she wants? And she was like, not bothered. She's like, no, I don't think I need that. And I was like, okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
And we just took our foot off the gas, stopped trying in the way that we had been forcing it, and we just let things go. And it's been a really interesting experience.
How has it changed? Well, what happened for Rosie first of all when you unschooled her?
So Rosie has her biggest passion is horses.
Mm-hmm.
So there was opportunities that started coming up for home educated kids to go and be at the yard for days of learning things to do with the British Horse Society. And so there was opportunities that we started seeing. Oh, you could do this. There were things at youth clubs. There was more events that were going. I didn't realise how much goes on outside of school for home educated kids. So it was things that she was seeing. She was bringing things to me. Oh, this looks good. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. So we started filling up her day. Now, she does have a horse. So if anyone has ever owned a horse, that can fill your days as well. So
hate relationship.
Yeah. So she would go there, she would go in the morning and she has jobs to do. So it's not like she doesn't have a routine. Also, she has lots of friends there. So lots of people fear the social aspect of losing that social aspect. I cannot tell you, this girl did not talk at school. This girl had no social interaction at school. She just wanted to hide. She just wanted to go away and not speak to anybody. Whereas now, she has she has sleepovers every weekend. She has loads of friends. She goes to music concerts and festivals. I mean, she went and saw Greg David a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't go. Like, she has loads of opportunities to do so much stuff. And so it was first of all about just removing ourselves from any expectations, just having this deep knowing that we trusted her enough that everything was going to be okay. I trust that education doesn't need to happen in a classroom, and that there are so many ways and different ways of learning. So things that have started to happen for her was that she has a massive fascination with food. She loves her food.
Mm-hmm.
So she was starting to cook. And there's loads of opportunities there. Like, I'm busy. I'm busy. We're working all the time. But there was loads of opportunities for her to just say, Mum, shall I make you some lunch? And then she would make me something. And first of all, it's things like, I don't know, eggs, like how to get the perfect boiled egg, or how to fry an egg, or what's scrambled egg, or can I make an omelette? And she was just starting to experiment in the kitchen. So that, that's gone on for a while. She now makes the perfect steak with her own peppercorn sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 15. And I'm like, that's good life lessons. So there's been lots that have just happened around the home. We have a dog who has been now trained to an inch of her life on how to do certain agility things in the garden. She spends a lot of time, her happy place is animals. And I think everyone's different. I'm not an animal person. I don't mind the odd, I'll stroke my dog. Yeah.
Cat.
I've got all the animals, but they're definitely hers. So she spends hours in the garden with that poor dog, training and just sitting there. And she started all of a sudden asking for books, random books that she'd seen that she would like to watch. So she's now reading this Korean romance series, which she thoroughly loves and enjoys. And then she would watch the films afterwards, and we'd start talking about how it's different with regards to what's happening in films to them. She also started earning some money, which has been really good. She has 3 jobs at the moment. She does dog walking at the weekend, and she gets paid £10 an hour, which hold on, it's not £10 an hour. She gets paid £30 for an hour and a half, right, on a Saturday morning at 7:30. So we get her up and she goes and she does that. And so much happens on these dog walks. There is so many stories when she comes home about escapee dogs, or dogs that just poo everywhere, or whatever she's had to deal with. But she's always got something. And like the other day, she had a dog escaped and pulled the owner of the place over, and he'd cut himself, and she had to run through the fields and find this escapee dog. All of these things, like there's life lessons being learned, right? And first aid and bits. So she does that. She's just been offered a job to be a stable hand at another stables that where she did the home education. They've asked her back. They're like, "Are you still home educated? We need someone in our team. Can you come?" So she's got to go for staff training on Monday, and she's going to be doing like 8 hours a week there. And she does some social media scheduling and bits and pieces for us. She's been to a Countex. She stood on the harmonica stand and handed out stickers and bits and pieces like that. Like she has ideas for our business all the time. She comes down and she goes, "Mum, I've had this idea about the Bookkeepers Collective. Why don't you?" And I'm like, okay. So she's listening and learning. And recently, I mean, just in the last couple of weeks, she should be going into year 11 right now. And she's like, "I want to do my GCSEs. And I think I can do them in 10 months. I've looked at the plan. I've talked to ChatGPT, and I've come up with an AI study plan." And so she set up an office, and she's asked me for a few materials, and she started. And if she does it, if she doesn't, I have detached from the outcome, because I absolutely know she's going to be fine. Most people say, "Well, how's she going to get a job?" She's got 3.
Yeah.
She's fine. She's so good with conversation and adults, and with explaining what she does. I mean, so talking about horses, another opportunity to learn. She outgrew her last horse. She's just got really tall. So she said, "I want to sell him and buy another one." I was like, there you go. You write the advert, you speak to everybody that inquires, you sell that horse, and then you research and buy the next one. We had to go through like 5-stage vetting with the horse that we had. She had to research the vets. She had to organise it. So if you're not going to go to school, you're an adult now in this situation, and you manage all of these things. So she's had loads of opportunities to learn. We also had the BBC come over to our house and interview us, and they were so great with her. They spoke to her all about all the setup and everything, and she was able to go and set up cameras and bits and pieces. And then she sat there and was interviewed on the BBC News. There are so many opportunities for learning.
So it sounds like you've got to a level with sort of traditional education where you're like, well, she will or she won't.
Yeah.
You feel like that. Have you ever been challenged by the local authority or the schooling system about her education?
This is usually one of the first questions people ask me, is like, how much have I paid in fines, or have I had to go to jail? I mean, and this was
worried about this.
Yeah, I thought I was going to jail. I honestly thought, like, I am such a good girl, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to prison for this. Anyway, my experience, and I cannot speak for anyone else's, when I deregistered from the school, which was writing an email to the headmaster saying that I'm choosing to deregister her from the school, I got an email back, or a letter back, saying that they don't recommend it and that they would prefer to help us integrate her and all this stuff. But I didn't respond to that. We'd made a decision. She was removed from that part, and then she's moved into the home education part of the local authority. She was added to the NHS as a home educator. So the NHS side of things has been brilliant. She's had all of her immunisations and anything that she's needed throughout. And that's just all done at our local hospital. And they have communicated it with us really clearly about that. And I heard nothing from anybody else. And this is where I was like, oh my God, this is building up. For 2 years. And then I got a phone call, and they said, "Oh, we're reaching out. We're from the local authority. We'd like to do an assessment with you about how things are going." And then she was like, "I'm so busy, I'll have to speak to you next month. I'm just phoning to let you know I'll speak to you next month." And I was like, okay. So actually I was with you at the time.
I remember how stressed you were in the lead up.
Yeah.
It was like the only thing we could talk about ahead of that.
I was so scared. And it was like, I don't know, a half hour, 45-minute phone call where she asked me, and she was filling in, what has Rosie been doing for her education? And obviously everything that I've mentioned here, I spoke about. I'd created a massive list. I don't know where that list is. There's mostly a lot more that she has done.
Edinburgh.
Yes.
She's done loads.
She did loads of things with scouts and bits and pieces. Yeah, absolutely. And she did like an online course about equine health and equine first aid, anatomy of horses and all these things. So she's got loads of certificates. She's been collecting these certificates, and also she does like show jumping competitions. She got her first rosette at the weekend, and she came sixth in a show jumping competition, and that all of that stuff. Like, I am not horse. I don't know what she has to do. All of that. Like, has anyone tried to tack up a horse? If you ever, I mean, I now drive a horse box, and I'm learning along as well. Though I am so stressed out. Yeah. So that was the phone conversation. She just wanted to hear how Rosie was, what she was doing. Now, I have multiple thoughts about this. The fact that no one had contacted us for 2 years scares the life out of me for kids that aren't as lucky as Rosie.
Yeah.
I know Rosie's safe. I know she's happy. I know that she's being fed and she's looked after. The fact that there are children out there that may not be in that same position, if they're not being contacted to, scares the life out of me. I can't take that on, and but that is something that I'm fearful of. There is no fines. There are no legal routes. We choose.
There are none, or you weren't faced with none?
I don't know about every other local authority, but for me, my experience is I have had none. How I understand it is when we register them for primary school, we are choosing to opt in to that. Now, the rules are children have to be educated until 18.
Mm-hmm.
How they're educated is the difference.
Right.
So so when we register them in for school, there's obviously funding attached and all that. When you deregister, that funding stops and you'll no longer have to get them into school. So the reason people get fined when they're on holidays and when the attendance is low and all of that stuff is all to do with the fact that they're getting funding and there are all of these systems and rules there. This is my understanding. But when you opt out of that and deregister from that education, then you're out of that. There's no fines. Now, obviously, if I wasn't able to prove, if I'd said she'd done absolutely nothing, which there was a point where I thought she might do absolutely nothing. And actually, from my point of view, I'm not educating her in the standard way. Do we have deep and meaningful conversations about podcasts that we've listened to? Do we sit and watch documentaries? She's really into history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they came and me and you had something. She comes on trips with us
to Cardiff Castle.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
She loves that kind of thing.
Exactly. She went to the Titanic Museum and things like that. So she's just, because we are free to able to move around and do things on different days, because we're not linked to those kind of school times, we are able to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to prove that she is having a full life. There is education in so many different forms. I mean, like I said, I've mentioned before, my friend runs a dance school. She's helped her out. She's gone and videoed her. She's then had to go and help with the children. And anytime, there's an opportunity in my family for someone to do a bit of like something on Canva or something, I'm like, hey, Rosie will give it a go, that kind of thing. I remember one time she advertised dog walking services at home and put out some leaflets, those kind of things. She's been doing loads. So, but the lady was like, at the end of the session, she was like, I've run out of space on my paper. Mm-hmm. Obviously they're writing things down, the local authority. I have no more room to put all these things. It sounds like Rosie is having an amazing life and you're giving her an amazing education and we won't ever need to speak to you again.
Oh, Jo.
And I was like, what? And so now I feel like I've got that full autonomy to just be her safe space for her to learn in any which way that she chooses. And she is choosing so many different ways that I would never think about, that I don't know about. The fact that she's learning so much about things in the horse world, like it's a whole language. It's a whole language. And the fact that she's learning this and choosing this, it's something that I could never teach her, but she's finding other mentors and other people and other, like, I don't know, YouTube creators and people that she will learn from. The fact she's so interested in spirituality, the fact she's so interested in history and like she deep dives, she's just being allowed to do what she wants. And I know that and there'll be people that think I am naive and stupid and completely delusional. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but I know that she's happy, she's talking, she's healthy. all of those gut issues have stopped. We did a lot of research on that together, and like golden kiwis for her, that were a healthy way of doing it rather than taking this horrible Movicol that was a drink she was drinking every day. She understands her body more. We've had like things like that. I feel like that I'm giving her a great life. I feel that she's happy and she's healthy. Do my older children agree with me? Absolutely not. Do they think she's spoiled? Absolutely, they do. But that's okay. They also have noticed when we started talking more about the fact that potentially there was some maybe autistic traits and things like that, there was a shift with them. And actually, they all get on so much better now. Do they still think she's spoiled? Yes, she's their little sister.
Yeah.
They always say, oh, she's the password kid and all that stuff, But they all actually, she and her older brother, who's 22, they go and do things together. Obviously, he's driving. He will happily take her to the yard. She'll go on a hack and he'll take the dog and go for a walk. And they are all meeting each other as individuals. And I don't know, I'm just so proud of them all.
Oh, that's lovely. So I'm interested to hear how the family dynamic changed that. And that's lovely, because you might not expect such a strong bond between children with a larger age gap. And the judgment, though, you've mentioned the judgment quite a lot. And, with something really emotive like taking children out of school, changing the way they're educated from like the norm and the expectation. Have you experienced judgment from outside of your family?
I experience it mostly with my close friendship group. I've got a group of like 8 girls, absolutely adore them, and we will go out for dinner and things, and they're all talking about GCSEs or getting kids into certain things or clubs and bits and pieces. Or we talk about, someone will say, oh, they think I'm so strict. And I just have a very different view to them. So like the other day, as a couple of my friends have I've got the oldest kid in the group, but they've got some kids that are like, I don't know, 19. And they were saying like one of them wanted to get a tattoo, and they were like, oh, no bloody way. And I'm like, but they're an adult.
Yeah.
And I'm like, was it a stupid tattoo? I just believe in my kids to make good life choices. What happened was she said no, and he said, actually, no, I don't fancy it anyway. But if she'd have said, yeah, go on then, he would have still made that decision. No, I don't fancy it anyway. And then he'd have been empowered and think, I make good decisions for myself. I've done a lot of parenting coach. I've learned a lot. I've realised so much that if I go on then, they make a different decision. It's like when things like if the kid wants to go out in the evening and they say, oh, what time do I need to be home? I'll say, what time do you think you want to be home?
Yeah.
And then they'll say half an hour earlier than what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I think we need to trust our kids more to make better choices and just let go of the apron strings.
Especially because we're the people who are bringing them up. So, if you feel like you have taught them what you wanted to teach them as a parent, then you've said to me before, there becomes a time where you don't sort of not tell them what to do, but, you don't lead. There becomes a point where there has to be a switch.
Yeah.
I see it as like a secondary school time where you have to trust that they can make the decision and you're the person that they can bounce those ideas off of.
Yeah, we're the guide. But they need to have full autonomy over their life and start realising that their decisions have consequences. And sometimes it's really hard for me. I mean, you saw the video of my son in Prague.
Yeah. He looked like he had a great time.
He had the best time. He decided to go to a bar and pay £20 for the privilege of having a shot, wearing a helmet, and they would smash your head with a fire extinguisher. He does not always make good choices, but they're his choices. And he had the time of his life. And if he'd have asked my opinion, I would have still said, do what you want, mate. Yeah. You're 22. If I'm still telling you what to do, and now he's just got himself an amazing apprenticeship role. He's having an amazing time. He's had some really tough years. But I always want them to know that home is a safe space and that there's no judgment. I don't want to be judged. So why do I need to judge them? It needs to be a safe space to make mistakes and know you can come home and tell me absolutely everything, and that I will still love you.
Oh, I think you're an amazing mum. I've learnt so much from you while we've, as we've got to know each other. You've really supported me through some difficult times, and if I can be a mum to teenagers like you are, I feel like I've made it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's going to really help everybody.
Thank you.